Welcome to this presentation on the community selection process for Solarize Westchester, round 2 of the Solarize Westchester campaigns. We're delighted that you're interested in learning about this great opportunity for your municipality. This presentation will be available on the Solarize Westchester website, so there's no need to take notes regarding the contents of the slides. I'm Nina Orville, and I'm the program manager for the Solarize Westchester program through my consulting company, Abundant Efficiency. I'm joined today for this presentation by 2 other presenters whose organizations are part of the Solarize Westchester team. First, I'll introduce Leo Wigman of Croton Energy Group and Sustainable Westchester. Leo?
Hello,
my name is Leo Wigman.
I don't hear an echo.
I don't hear an echo. Anyway. Croton Energy Group is the subcontractor to this project to provide updates on the permitting and zoning standards that are used in the 43 jurisdictions in Westchester County that issue building permits or mechanical permits for solar photovoltaic systems. And as such, and I'll introduce Greg King, he can stick his head in here. So Greg King is working with us at Croton Energy Group, and I have completed surveys of those 43 municipalities, and those are going to be available to the round 2 applicants to use as a baseline for the solar friendliness of those communities.
Great. Also joining us today is Sharon Pillar, the Vice President of Smart Power. Sharon?
Thank you, Nina. I'm so happy to be here. As Nina said, I'm Sharon Pillar, the Vice President of Smart Power. Smart Power is a nonprofit marketing firm for clean energy. And we have lots of experience and working with Solarize campaigns around the country. And so happy to be working again with this project at Solarize Westchester. And we'll be doing the RFI leading the community selection process and also helping with the installer selection process as well. Thank you, Nina.
Wonderful. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So during this presentation, I'll provide an overview of the Solarize Westchester program, discuss how Solarize campaigns work in general, and give a sneak peek at the results thus far of our round 1 campaigns, which are concluding now. Leo, whose community, Croton-on-Hudson, was a pilot participant, will also share his experience with the Solarize campaigns from the municipal perspective. Then Sharon and Leo will walk us through the RFI document for round 2 campaigns and discuss selection process and criteria. We're going to end with plenty of time for questions. And during this presentation, if you have any questions, please send them to Susanna Murley at Smart Power, who will forward them to us. And her email is smurley, S as in Susanna, Murley, M-U-R-L-E-Y, at smartpower.com. So feel free to send those in as we go. So first, a little bit of background on Solarize Westchester. The program is supported by NYSERDA through New York Sun, a $1 billion investment in solar energy over 10 years by the state. Solarize Westchester reflects New York State's strategy to move from incentives for clean energy projects to helping to build vibrant markets for clean energy technologies. Solarize Westchester was developed to ensure that Westchester County benefits from New York State's investment in solar, and it's designed to set the stage for a future of continued robust growth in solar markets here. The Solarize Westchester program has 2 program components. The first is the Solarize campaigns, which we're going to be discussing in detail today. And the second is solar-friendly permitting and zoning work, which Leo Wigman has been heading up, and he'll speak about in a little more detail later. Both of these program components are designed to reduce costs and enhance ease for solar installations during the period of the program and into the future. We put together a really great team of organizations who are working on this project. They include the Energy Improvement Corporation, which is the prime contractor, and also offers Energize PACE Finance, which is being leveraged in commercial markets for commercial Solarize. Abundant Efficiency is my consulting firm, which is the program manager, and I'm working with Nikki Coddington, who many of you might know, on this project. Sustainable Westchester, whose predecessor organizations were key to the development of this program, is an organization that also plays a very important role in this, in doing community outreach, participating in the community selection, and issuing the RFP to solar installers. Smart Power, as you heard, is the leading nonprofit focused on clean energy campaigns, and we've benefited tremendously from Smart Power's learnings from other Solarize campaigns in this project. Croton Energy Group, led by Leo, as you heard, they've surveyed all 43 permitting jurisdictions in Westchester County to learn about current regulations and practices related to permitting and zoning for solar. And finally, PACE Land Use Law Center, which is leading the effort to analyze zoning and procedural barriers to solar and is helping communities to remove those through the Solarize Westchester program. So in a nutshell, let's talk about the components of Solarize campaigns. Solarize campaigns have been implemented successfully across the country. They've been demonstrated to be the best way to get a lot of solar, particularly residential solar, installed quickly in communities. And they're based on a few pillars, including extensive community outreach, moving social norms related to solar, engaging volunteers throughout the community, and engaging elected officials and other community leaders. The Solarize campaigns are specifically designed to reduce barriers to going solar. Some of those barriers are cost. People perceive solar as being very expensive. Through fixed pricing that installers commit to when they respond to the RFP, and tiered pricing, which lowers the price for everybody as more people sign contracts to go solar, that concern about cost is really mitigated in a Solarize campaign. In addition, the concern about reliability is addressed because this is a program that's supported by New York State through NYSERDA and has very strong municipal support in the communities where we roll out the campaigns. In addition, the challenge of complexity is addressed in that there's a very clear process for people who are interested in learning about going solar to learn and to understand what their opportunity is. Finally, the final barrier of inertia is addressed by the deadline. These are 18-week campaigns, and one of the things that I have heard from a lot of people in communities where we've done these campaigns is that they've considered the possibility of installing solar for years, and it wasn't until the Solarize campaign came to their community that they were actually spurred to take action. So in a nutshell, Solarize uses the group purchasing model with selected installers. The community support that those installers receive reduces the installer's costs, and those savings are shared with customers through lower prices. And in addition, the tiered pricing that we build into the program rewards community participation. There are 4 steps to implementing us. The first, which is what we're discussing today, is community selection. As you know, there will be 4 campaigns selected in the second round of Solarize Westchester. Step number 2 is selecting the solar contractors. There may be a different installer for the residential and the commercial market for each campaign that is determined for each campaign. And Sustainable Westchester is issuing an RFP to all interested solar installers in July. The installers who respond will be vetted first by NYSERDA and then by the Solarize Westchester campaign team. And finally, through a process that we'll manage, members of the communities that are participating will select the installers that they think will be a good fit for their community. The next step is launching and running the Solarize campaigns. In this case, we expect the campaigns to run from October to February. And then finally, celebrating the results and also determining how to leverage the success for other local sustainability initiatives that a community wishes to undertake. The Solarize campaigns involve a collaboration between the selected installer, the local community, and the Solarize Westchester team, who all work to make sure that the customer experience for your homeowners and commercial property owners is as easy and comfortable as possible. So you can see the installer provides competitive tiered pricing. They take the lead in educating the community about exactly what they can offer through the Solarize campaigns. They provide all the technical expertise as well, of course, as doing the installations. The local community plays an absolutely critical role. There's the core team of volunteers from the community, also elected officials who may be part of the core team but might not be, and all of the partners in the community who are identified, whether it's the PTSA or business organizations, any kind of civic groups that may be interested in helping to get the word out. And it's the local community that figures out the best channels for communicating about Solarize and activates those during the campaigns. The Solarize Westchester team provides the overall program coordination and the program structure, the outreach and organizing support for the local community. So together, those three entities make up a successful campaign for residents of a community. There are 2 rounds of Solarize campaigns that were funded through the Solarize Westchester program by NYSERDA. 4 campaigns in each round. And in round 1, which is currently finishing, we had the pleasure and the good fortune of working with Bedford, Mount Kisco, Cortland, Croton, Larchmont, Mamaroneck, both the town and the village, and Ossining, both the town and the village, and Briarcliff. And of course, we're heading into round 2 and the community selection for that now. So the round 1 campaigns, which are concluding, have been a really great success, I think participants in those communities would say. We've had multiple events focused just on Solarize, tabling happening at farmers markets and Earth Day events, solar open houses, banners placed around the communities, very extensive communication by the local Solarize teams and elected officials through emails and letters sent out to residents and commercial property owners. There's really been a terrific amount of activity. And I think it's been a great experience in all of these campaigns. And just to give you a little sense as to the way they're shaping up, and again, these campaigns for the most part haven't finished yet. We've had over 1,200 inquiries from individuals about the opportunity to install solar that have resulted so far in over 140 contracts for solar installations and over 1.3 megawatts of solar energy contracted for. So we're very pleased. And Leo, as the mayor of the village of Croton, can share briefly what his experience was with that campaign. Leo?
Had to find the unmute button. So in Portland and Croton, we had previously, in the past 2 years prior to this, collaborated on Energize programs, which were outreach to local homeowners for the under the Energize New York program to upgrade an energy efficiency of homes. So we had sort of a fair bit of experience in working together as local governments with local community groups to create outreach, and we built that in as a sort of a precursor model for how we would do a Solarize campaign, to work with local community groups and to use the sort of bully pulpit, if you will, of town hall and village hall to invite residents in for public events, or in our case also at our libraries. So from that perspective, we as a community had sort of already done this sort of thing around an energy topic for consumers and homeowners in our area, and I think that gave us a bit of perhaps a leg up, or a bit of a head start in how we would approach it relative to Solarize. It was, I think, very important to know that from the perspective of once we had submitted our applications and we were then a successful awardee of the program, to know that there would be a rigorous bid review process by Solarize Westchester on behalf of the municipalities to winnow down the contractors, and then it was a very useful exercise whereby we all congregated, all the winning applicants, I think hosted by New York Power Authority in White Plains, for a day, or not quite a full day, where Solarize Westchester brought in a number of the contractors, and they essentially, one by one, presented themselves to us, and we were able to have a dialogue with them, ask questions, and sort of interview them one at a time, or at some level of detail. And that, I think, was very helpful to us to give us some comfort level that we were, at the end of that day, asked to pick which two of these six could we feel most comfortable working with. And so there was a sort of a matchmaking exercise that was, I think, helpful for us, and also gave us the sense that the contractors have been vetted for quality of work and sort of their fiscal ability to perform, and the length of time and the number of jobs they had done, and also that they were, which was important to Croton, Portland, and I think to all the teams, but for us we felt that it had to be a local installer to sort of keep those job dollars that might be generated in our own communities here in Westchester and in the surrounding area, that they use their own local work crews. At the end of the day, the process began in February, which from a solar perspective is a tough time of year to get up on a roof and do a solar measurement, given the snow we had this winter. But by the time the program closed, I think it greatly exceeded our expectations in terms of the numbers of homeowners and business owners who did step forward and were found to have good solar resource on their home or business building, and then did in the end commit to a contract for solar. So the experience here was, I think we tripled the volume in the past 4 months of solar over the same 4 months in the prior year. So it had a 300% plus increase in solar capacity in just those 3-4 months, which is a tremendous achievement. It speaks to the benefits of the program.
Great. Thank you, Leo. So the timetable for this second round of Solarize campaigns. The RFI, which is available on the Solarize Westchester website, was released on June 1st. We had originally set a deadline for submission of June 29th, but because of vacation schedules and some challenges in getting the word out to all eligible municipalities, we are in the process of extending that. So stay tuned. We're looking at an extension of at least a week, and that will be posted on the website and sent out to anybody, certainly, who has signed up for this webinar. So the communities will be selected in July. This date of July 6th will be pushed back, of course, if we do push back the deadline, as we intend to. But still, communities will be notified in July. And the installer selection process will still take place, as we had originally envisioned, relatively early into mid-September. And that's the process that the communities engage in with the Solarize Westchester team after all the initial vetting of installers has been done. We're looking for these second round campaigns to launch mid-October and to conclude in February. So Sharon, do you want to walk people through the RFI document itself?
Great, thank you, Nina. For those of you, if you haven't found the RFI document, it can be found on the website, solarizewestchester.com, under the About section. And there is, then you'll pick Solarize Community Request for Information to find what's showing up on the screen right now. So that will be the RFI itself, and there are 2 attachments there. So I'll just go through what the application requirements are and just highlight some of those things that we are hope to see and might help guide you in completing the application itself. So first of all, in the RFI document, you'll see on page 14 the application requirements. And the first thing that's listed there is a letter from the chief elected official from your municipality. And if you are applying as a consortium, you really should have a letter from each municipality that's going to be participating in that consortium. And this is your opportunity to really show what you'd like to highlight about your municipality and really tell us why you would like to have Solarize Westchester in your community. And really tell us why the community is well positioned to take advantage of the program, and what the community. And if you are going to apply as a coalition, you'll want to describe that to us, and we really would like to know why you're applying as a coalition. And I'll talk a little bit about that scenario in a minute, as far as a coalition, and then identify a primary program contact for your program for your municipality. And obviously, if it's a consortium, there should be a primary contact for each municipality. So the second piece of the application requirement is Attachment A. Attachment A is the applicant community contact and authorized signature form. In this document, it's actually pretty short, but we really just want to know your information, how to contact you, if there are the name of municipality, and if there's a coalition, which communities are applying. And this is an opportunity to tell us who the core team members are, and a little bit of background, and what makes them sort of special to be on this team, and why are they interested in participating in this project. And then also in this form is the installer selection committee. So you'll want to identify people from your municipality, and if there's a consortium, you need someone from each municipality to be on this committee. These folks are going to be reviewing the bids and the RFP from the solar contractor, and creating a short list. If you have a short list, if you have multiple installers, it's good to whittle that down to just a few that you will then probably interview. And we're going to be helping you with that process along the way. But we obviously need folks from your municipality to participate in that. And then there's an authorized signature, who in the municipality is authorized to provide this information and has the authority for the municipality. The next attachment is Attachment B, and that's the Solarize Westchester Community Information Form. And this is the place where you really get to show us and tell us why your municipality is such a great place for Solarize Westchester. So we're looking for, and I will say, when you're putting this together, it doesn't have to be a complete outreach plan, because we will be helping you develop that if you are selected. But we really want to know what kinds of marketing and outreach ideas that you have. And often they're very unique to your community. Things such as events that might be happening that you can plug into. And we know the most successful communities are those that can tap into their communication networks, or social capital, as we call it. It's really not, from the research and data we know, it's not really socioeconomic status or even political party, but the defining factor of success in a municipality for Solarize is really the ability to tap into these networks. And so we would like you to kind of tell us how you might do that and what your ideas are around that, and you can be as creative as you want. We're also looking to find out what other partner organizations that you might be working with, and also partners bring a lot of their own constituents and their networking communication channels into the project that are really very helpful. You also see media and communication outlets. You know, what kind of newspapers or radio or any of those kind of outlets that you might be able to tap into, and you might probably already have relationships with them that make it easy to be a part of those, and including email lists and those kind of things. And then we want to know how many installations are in your community, and there's a link to the New York State data portal that helps you to identify the number of installations that are in your community. So that helps us to know that too. And we know that when the communities do have installations, they can leverage those to inspire others to go solar as well. We're also asking if you are a member in the Sustainable Westchester or Energy Improvement Corporation. And then lastly on that form is our specialized request for your installers. So you really want to tell us what this information will go to the installers. Actually, this whole document will go to the installers so they can formulate their RFP in response to your needs and wishes. So this special request for an installer, maybe as Leo mentioned, you know, they wanted a local installer. That could be one of the special requests you have. Or you want to make sure that they offer a North American made panel or equipment. So whatever resonates or is important to your team, you can decide that and include that in the application. And as I said, that would go on to the installers so that they can formulate their RFP. The next piece of the application is Attachment C, which is not on the website, but you can get that by contacting Leo. And Leo, I'll turn this over to you at this point to explain what Attachment C is.
Sharon?
Yes?
If I could just make one comment regarding Attachment B and the request to installers. There were communities who had gone into the installer selection process thinking that there were certain criteria that were very important for them in the selection, and then through the interview process came to a different conclusion about what they were looking for. So one recommendation that I would have is to perhaps not be absolute in your language regarding an installer must XYZ, but instead to indicate a preference rather than an absolute requirement if it's something that your community might potentially shift their thinking on based on the responses that come back.
That's a great point, Nina. I think that is really important.
Great. So Leo, do you want to talk about Attachment C?
Sure. So we worked with the Solar Roadmap folks, which are sponsored by the Department of Energy, to come up with a set of questions we could use to ask of the municipalities and the building inspectors and the municipal code here in Westchester, and we adapted the Solar Roadmap survey to Westchester County, and I don't know if anyone can see the screen. I see Sharon on the screen, but I don't see the actual slide, the PowerPoint slide.
Oh, are you?
There, that's better. Whoop, it went away again. Well,
On
in
my
any case,
computer, it says I'm sharing.
okay, so we prepared this information, and we have it housed on a Google Drive that we share with Pace Land Use Law School's Land Use Center. As municipalities are interested in applying, if they contact me, I will create a version of this that we're now calling Attachment C, which comes with very simple instructions on the first tab. The second tab is for a signature and any notes you have. And the next tabs, Attachment C-1 on permitting, Attachment C-2 on planning and zoning, Attachment C on Westchester specific zoning questions, and then Attachment C on market development are all subsets of Attachment C, and they're all sort of an Excel sheet, and you can sort of open each tab and look at the answer columns that are there for both residential and for commercial. There are quite a few questions. Some of them are fairly detailed, but we tried to go through and harvest as much information we can, both online and in-person interviews around the county for each municipality. And basically, the responsibility would be for the applicant community to sort of look at this, review it, perhaps go over it with their building inspector or town or village engineer, and sort of give us back any corrections, any notes, so we can make sure this is updated. But this will basically give you a sense of what your current process is, and we'll then use this to digest later in the fall sort of best practices and how to overcome any zoning hurdles and that sort of thing for all the jurisdictions of Westchester. And so the instructions are pretty straightforward. They are set up to be printed properly on 8.5 by 11. At least that was our intention. So.
Leo, there's maybe we should just jump to this question now, since this seems like a good place. But there was a question about how important is the municipality adoption of the New York permit to the application for Solarize?
Yes. So the state has promulgated a solar-specific permit, and a number of municipalities in Westchester have adopted versions of that. Each municipality that has done that has done so rather differently. Under home rule, that's the way municipalities operate here, which is fine. I would say that the municipalities have a number of different ways to become more solar friendly, and obviously be creating a solar specific permit that is essentially treating solar systems as mechanical adaptations to buildings. Is a streamlined way to go, and a lot of the jurisdictions that have done the solar specific permit have essentially created that path, which involves less paperwork than a full building permit, but does give the municipality the necessary information it needs and the necessary safety and precautionary guidance that it needs. So I would say that, the question was, how important is it for adoption of this permit? I think a municipality would have to demonstrate that they had made a number of solar-friendly streamlining adaptations, whether they actually verbatim adopted the entire permit per se, or had their own version of it. And we're happy to make the solar specific permit available in Word document format. A number of municipalities have an online permitting system so that they can change the nature of the questions that are served up to someone when they click the solar box that mirror the permit. So in that case, there's one or two jurisdictions that have, a number of jurisdictions that use the online permitting that can adapt their questions that are served up to someone filling out a permit to reflect the questions for the solar-specific permit. So in that case, they haven't adopted the actual 4-page PDF from the state, but they've adopted language that's parallel to it in their own online permitting process. So I would count that as adopting the permit. But
great. And in the round 1 campaigns, a number of municipalities participating in the pilot round had adopted the New York State permit. A few of them certainly had not. And so I think Leo's point of looking in a holistic way at what the process is in a municipality. Are there significant barriers, or is it streamlined in general, even beyond just the question of whether the permit was adopted, is important to consider.
Right. There's basically two things that play a role. One is it comes down to time and money. Is it easy to figure out what is required to submit a permit for solar? Number one. That's not necessarily always obvious. Number two, upon identifying what needs to be submitted, is the length of review relatively timely for the submission, or can it be shortened in some way? And number three, what's the cost involved in that, and can that be predicted in some kind of reliable fashion? So from the installer's perspective, if it takes 6 to 12 weeks to get a permit, that's a long wait. If it takes 2 or 3 days to get a permit, that's great. And anything in between that can be shortened is a good thing, so that the installers, once they're going to be doing several dozen installations in the community, know ahead of time how much queuing time they need for those permits to be processed. So from the installer perspective, we do know that, for example, in the town of Cortland and the village of Croton, both had adopted a solar-specific permit before this program began, and both had done it in different ways, but the installer that won the bid for the work in Cortland and Croton knew as a result that he had two slightly different processes depending whether the installation was in the village or in the town, but that it was reliable up front, and that it was a relatively short period of time for them to be processed and approved if they were complete.
Great.
Good, and there were just a couple other things I just wanted to mention about the application. There are 2 optional pieces that you can submit to us. One is personal statements, but we prefer not to have more than 2 of those from any community groups or partners or solar volunteers or ambassadors that might be either working on the project or have some perspective that might be helpful to speak to why the project would do well in your community. And the other is a letter of support from other interested parties or grassroots organizations or solar companies in your organization, or elected officials. This is a great opportunity to have those officials show their support through these letters of support. And again, we really do not want more than 2 of those. I'm sure that you could, all the municipalities could come up with a large number of them, but we'd like to limit that to 2. So now what I'd like to do is talk about the evaluation criteria, and I don't know if I can get that back up on the screen, because right now I'm just looking at Leo.
Oh.
There we go. Okay, great. So what we'll be doing, the selection team itself, and did we miss that slide, Nina, or is that the next one? There, let's talk about that first. So the selection team is comprised of our organization Smart Power will be leading this effort, Sustainable Westchester, and Abundant Efficiency. However, if one of the communities participates where a member of the selection committee resides, they will not participate in the selection process so that we can remain objective. And I lost the screen again. I don't know if I can get it back.
It says that it's sharing.
Okay, great. There it is.
The last point was about diversity.
Oh, great. Good. And
I'm cheating. I was setting the computer up with the slideshow. So.
Yeah, I have it in front of me as well. So as Leo mentioned, the last point is diversity in geography and community characteristics. So we're looking to ensure that communities from throughout the county are represented in the program, that there's diversity in terms of income levels and other characteristics of the communities selected.
Great, thank you, Nina. And then lastly, I just want to talk about the actual selection criteria that the team will be using, which is found in the RFI and it can be seen on your screen now. We're looking at these 4 major points of community commitment to clean energy and sustainability. So we really want to see what is your level of interest in the past around energy efficiency or renewable energy or other energy efforts in your community that we could, or that you could leverage in your community to expand into the Solarize project. Again, the solar-friendly permitting and zoning practices and membership. Your commitment can be shown to by membership in the Sustainable Westchester or Energy Improvement Corporation. The second point was around project leadership, and obviously a very important point to designate a project lead that really will be a cheerleader for the Solarize campaign in your municipality. And also the commitment of elected officials. We know this is a huge indicator of success when we have elected officials who are very happy and enthusiastic to stand up in front of their communities and promote this program. So that is an important feature that we are looking for. And then the commitment of the core team and volunteers. And they also are really important to the success when we have committed and enthusiastic people who want to bring this out throughout their community. And as I said, when I was going through the RFI, the creative outreach, and this outreach is really the crux and really the meat of the Solarize campaign, and really what it's all about is to reach as many people as we can and get as many people to request a solar contract, or a request for a contract or request is really our ultimate goal. The more of those, the more solar installations will result in. And then we're looking for some unique qualities or resources and communication channels that you can tell us about your community. Why is your community special? And again, those communication channels that you can offer or leverage in the program are really important, and the events that you can tap into throughout your community. And then lastly, the current solar installations in the community. And again, we know from the research that if you have a solar installation within a half a mile of where you live, you're almost twice as likely to go solar. So can you leverage those existing solar installations? And we'd just like to know where they are in your municipality. So we'll be using these criteria and scoring the RFIs on this basis to try to create a more objective review process in our selection process.
And Sharon,
I just want to mention too that on the very front of the RFI and in the instructions, it indicates that you should email the RFI to me. That email address is probably most likely going to be changing as I will be on vacation during this time. So we will update that information on the website, so please check back there and we'll try to email that information to those people who have requested to get updates about the RFI project, and you can do that on the same webpage as the RFI.
Great. And Sharon, I also just want to note, as the slide says, that the criteria that you listed that have an asterisk following them are criteria that we have found to be particularly key in the success of the first round of Solarize campaigns and in other Solarize campaigns that you've been involved with. And so the points for those particular criteria will be doubled. So instead of going from 1 to 3, it'll essentially go from 1 to 6.
Great, thank you, Nina, for pointing that out.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that there are communities who, and it just happened to come out in the first round that we had each of the 4 groupings of communities were consortia, but it does not have to be that way. And there's some things that we want to point out to municipalities who are considering joining up and applying as a consortia. So really we want to know why you're doing that, and we want to see the benefit for both communities for that partnership. So here we say the sum of the whole should be greater than its parts. So it's not just to expand this among the two municipalities or three. We want to see how you can leverage if there are communication channels maybe that overlap, or other efforts that you have worked on together within your communities that might help you in the logistics of working on this campaign together. So really tell us what your rationale is behind that. And our preference is for no more than 2 communities, and we may make exceptions if there are 3 communities who want to join up together, and that will be based on your situation. It could be geography or other considerations, but really our preference is for no more than 2, because it becomes very complicated to manage for you and for us to manage 2 or 3 municipalities. But in some cases that can actually be a huge benefit when you have municipalities teaming up for that. But we also want to just indicate to you that even though there would be 2 or maybe 3 municipalities joining, that they were considered a single campaign. So there needs to be one lead person who's charged with the communication among that entire team, but also point person or group of people for each municipality itself. So hopefully that makes sense. But we do need a key organizer who can coordinate among those municipalities. Is extremely important.
Great. And I would just add, there were people who inquired after the first round communities were selected whether we had given a preference to applications that came from consortia of municipalities. And in fact, we weren't even aware that we had selected only joint applications until this question was raised. And in thinking about it, one of the reasons that I think those communities were selected was perhaps because when you have more than one community working on an application for something, it requires there to be a team of people developing the application together. Whereas if it's a single community, it's easier for one person to take the lead. And the strongest applications, I think, whether they come from a single municipality or whether they come from a coalition approach, are applications where there has been a team of people putting them together, because then you have the benefit of the resources of that entire team and the relationships that that entire team has in their community. And all of that is more easily reflected when you have a group of people who have worked together in developing the application itself. So that's something that we would really encourage. I think that an application from an individual community can absolutely be as strong as an application from a consortium, as long as you have a team of people who have worked to put that together.
And then lastly, we just want to talk about the considerations for larger municipalities. So communities that are really large, often it's very difficult to tap into communication networks on a very large scale. So there may be, if the community's a city or a community may consider breaking down and having an application submitted by a neighborhood or we say quadrant, or however that municipality views their divisions among their communities. And so that is a more successful approach, but this is just going to really depend upon the community's view of this. And we have a large number of communities or that we've worked with in Solarize where we've done this municipal approach, and or the neighborhood approach, excuse me. and it seems much more successful. I think in the Westchester area, there probably aren't going to be that many municipalities that are that large where you might have this consideration. But if you feel that you might be in this situation, best to contact Nina and have the discussion with her, and we could walk you through, thinking through that, if that might be beneficial to you. So again, the Solarize campaigns depend on the strong community engagement and outreach, and so if it is too large, we do find it difficult to tap into those networks. And I think that's
right. Yeah, so as we had indicated at the beginning, anybody who has questions that they would like to pose regarding anything that we've discussed or anything that perhaps we missed that you'd like us to cover, please send an email to Susanna Murley, and the email address is there. And following this webinar, any questions about the RFI or the submission process, please direct to me, and my email is there. And we will be posting answers to all the questions that are posed through this RFI process on the Solarize Westchester website on the RFI page, so that all the communities have the benefit of whatever sort of clarifying information we might provide. So I am going to stop sharing my screen now so that we can all have a conversation regarding any questions coming in, and feel free to go ahead and send those.
So this is Leo. If you leave the screen up, people will have the email address. I'd be happy to try to answer. There's a question asked about property taxes. So the question was, have any New York communities found a way not to have installation of solar increase assessed value of a property and therefore property taxes? Increased assessed value could be a disincentive to homeowners. And that it would be absolutely true, but thankfully under Real Property Tax Law 487 in New York State, which was reenacted and re-extended in 2014, solar photovoltaic systems are exempt from property tax valuation and therefore are not going to increase your property tax bill on your residential or commercial building. So we can thank the state legislature and the governor for re-signing the Real Property Tax Law 487.
Great. There was another question regarding what some of the drivers were for the most inquiries for existing campaigns. What are some of the hallmarks of successful campaigns? And in answer to that, certainly the Solarize events that have been organized are tremendously important in terms of generating interest from residents and providing installers and the elected officials, et cetera, the opportunity to explain the program to people who attend, and to give really in-depth information to interested people from the installer, and to sign up there. The other things that have been extremely successful are letters from the municipalities, and often the installers have piggybacked on communication that the municipality sends out anyway. So in that scenario, the installer pays to print up flyers or whatever the case might be, or letters from the chief elected official describing the program, and those materials in certain cases are able just to be included in mailings that are going out. We've had great success also in some communities, including in Leo's village of Croton and the town of Cortland, with banners. And that's something that can take some advance work to identify where banners are allowed to be placed, what sort of signage is allowed to be placed in a community. But banners account for a very significant number of the inquiries that have come in from the communities that have used them best. also all of the communication from elected officials and from organizations, the email lists that you have at your disposal, and social media. So again, identifying all of those resources up front is really important and can help you get out the gate very quickly and in a strong fashion for the communities that participate in round 2.
Nina, I'll just piggyback on that. We found that news coverage is extremely helpful too, particularly we get a lot of hearing an echo for the launch event and other events that are happening throughout the community. So that media attention is really helpful too. And along that, there was a question about the cost to the municipalities that we often get this question. There is no outright cost to the municipalities, and we're talking about some of the marketing materials like banners and yard signs and those kind of things. Typically, the installers who are selected, and this will be part of the RFP process for the contractors to include, would be to provide a marketing budget or to indicate what they might be willing to pay for. So often these marketing materials are covered by the contractors, and often very happy to do that because it obviously is helping them as well. So there's no outright cost to the municipality participating in the campaign, other than maybe some of your time and some meetings that will hopefully that you will attend.
Great. And just piggybacking on that as well, so the installers will be asked to designate a marketing budget to use to support the campaign. And that's typically for printing, for producing the banners, and for those kinds of expenses. What we found in the first round campaigns is that the amount that the installers have spent, the installers doing the residential work, tends to be about $5,000 or so per campaign. And so we'll be giving that general guideline to installers who apply, that's the sort of expectation that they might have. But what the installers have made clear from the beginning, and it obviously makes sense, is that beyond that, they may continue to have interest in making additional investments depending on how the campaign is going. So you should assume there's a certain budget that will be available to support the campaign, and that if the campaign is going very well, that installers might be willing to increase that.
This is Leo. I can address the financing questions. So about a third of the systems in Westchester County are purchased as cash. Another third are purchased as leases, and about another third or so are purchased as power purchase agreements. When I say cash, it's either cash or a loan, same as cash. And that, under this program, obviously different installers offer different kinds of ways to finance a solar system. And some installers prefer to work with the state's Green Jobs, Green New York low interest rate program, and that program was scheduled to close in April, but has been extended by the state in the last in the final budget. So for clients who and so a valid question for a community to ask of installers is what they anticipate the financial offerings to be from that installer to the residents or business owners in the community. Relative to the Green Jobs, Green New York program is actually very well suited to the Solarize program in terms of the amount of financing available per applicant, which caps at $25,000, and that happens to about match 80 or 90% of the cost of the average residential solar system in Westchester. So that Solarize is a good fit for residents who want to do the low interest loan through the state of New York Green Jobs Green New York financing program.
I see one other question, and then let's wrap it up because it's going to be 1 o'clock. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions that people have following the webinar, and I'll post answers to those questions on the website as well. There was a question about the difference between letters of support and personal statements. Really, they're very similar. There was just a difference that was indicated in terms of the length that they could be. So I wouldn't be overly concerned necessarily by differentiating between those two. Essentially, you're just showing the depth of commitment and the resources that your community is bringing to a successful Solarize campaign. So if there are no other burning questions, I think we will wrap this up for now. This presentation is going to be on the Solarize Westchester website, as I mentioned, and there's a place there for interested people to sign up for RFI updates. If you haven't done that yet, please go ahead and do that, and we'll make sure that we keep you updated regarding changes to the deadline for submission and any other clarifications that are posted. So thank you so much to everybody for participating. Bye.
Bye-bye.